He is perhaps one of the most evil men in America. But before Ariel Castro was sent away to serve his life plus a 1,000-year prison sentence,
Ariel Castro, the Cleveland bus driver who kidnapped, imprisoned, and tortured 3 women, was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years with no parole after one of his victims confronted him. She claimed he had put her through 11 years of torment. In a meandering last address to the court, Castro alternated between defiance and regretful while displaying no remorse. Despite apologizing for his acts, he asserted,
"I am not a monster."
"If you asked my daughter, she would say, 'My dad is the best dad in the world,'" Castro remarked. Cuyahoga County Judge Michael Russo, who described Castro as having extreme narcissism, said the acts were so heinous that the former school bus driver should never be released. Castro has pled guilty to hundreds of crimes, including murder, for allegedly abusing and starving victim Michelle Knight in order to induce her to miscarry while pregnant. Knight made a dramatic appearance in court before the sentence and presented a written statement in which she said Castro had persecuted her from her kidnapping in 2002 until her release on May 6, 2013.
Days never got shorter. Days turns into nights. Nights turns into days. Years turn into eternity. I spent 11 years in hell. Now your hell is just beginning.
Castro, who was wearing leg shackles and an orange prison jumpsuit, sparred with the court about some of the allegations and sat silently during the hearing and punishment. Amanda Berry, Gina DeJesus, and Knight went missing from Cleveland's west side between 2002 and 2004. On May 6th, they were located when neighbors heard Berry's calls for help from Castro's house. According to DNA evidence, Berry has a 6-year-old daughter fathered by Castro in captivity. According to Castro, the kid had a normal existence, and Berry is out partying following her release, so she must be well. He referred to the little girl as his miracle child. The only time he grew emotional was when he was talking about her. "I heard I can file for parental rights," Castro told the court. The judge stated that he would not be permitted to contact the girl. Prosecutors presented horrific evidence of the crimes earlier in the court, including a dollhouse-sized replication of the residence where he imprisoned the women. There were also inside images of the residence, which showed chains, boarded-up windows, several locks, and drapes dividing rooms. A police officer recalled how Knight threw herself into the arms of a police officer when she understood he was there to save her.
Mr. Patterson, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you give up your right to a trial?
Yes.
Now, let's take a look at the case of Jake Patterson, a person who abducted 13-year-old Jamie Kloss and murdered her parents in Wisconsin, fidgeted and sobbed as he pled guilty to 2 charges of intentional homicide and 1 count of abduction. Following the hearing in Barron County Circuit Court, the bespectacled 21-year-old defendant, who was dressed in an orange jumpsuit, said, "Bye, Jamie." The audience, which included Kloss family members, sent out loud gasps. Patterson's father and sister were also present in court, as he informed the judge that he agreed with and understood the plea that would almost certainly put him in jail for the rest of his life. He sobbed as he pleaded guilty to each count, his lawyer bending over to soothe him. Patterson tapped his foot anxiously, and his manacles shook a little when he moved. A 4th allegation of armed robbery was withdrawn as part of the plea deal, while state prosecutors refused to bring charges for offenses committed in a nearby county after the abduction. Patterson had intended to plead guilty from the day he met him, according to his defense counsel. He has been consistent in saying that this is exactly what he wants to do, said attorney Richard Jones. Each count of deliberate murder carries a penalty of up to life in prison, while abduction carries a sentence of up to 40 years. Patterson has talked with TV journalists at least twice since his detention. He allegedly wrote a letter to a KARE TV journalist professing his contrition and stating his intention to plead guilty to murder and abduction charges. He phoned a WCCO reporter earlier and expressed contrition for what had occurred. Patterson watched Jamie get on a school bus while driving to a cheese factory where he had a temporary job, and he knew that was the girl he was going to take, according to the criminal complaint. Patterson said in the complaint that he drove to Jamie's house in Barron twice with the intent to kidnap her. On the third try, the suspect drove to her house and shot and murdered her father, James Kloss, at the door. Jamie and her mother, Denise Kloss, took shelter in the toilet, where her mother wrapped her in a bear hug. Patterson stormed inside the house and smashed the bathroom door. He shackled Jamie's wrists and ankles and taped her lips shut. According to the lawsuit, he then fatally shot her mother. He pulled Jamie out to the trunk of his vehicle and drove back to his house. Her disappearance sparked a major manhunt. Patterson is accused of imprisoning Jamie for 88 days inside his cabin in the isolated hamlet of Gordon. Patterson would have Jamie hide beneath his twin-size bed in his bedroom when he had visitors, including his father, according to Jamie. According to the complaint, the suspect informed her that if anybody found out she was there, awful things would happen to her. He piled totes and laundry bins around his bed, with weights stacked against them so he'd know if she'd moved them. Patterson would make Jamie stay under the bed for up to 12 hours at a time, with no food, water, or bathroom breaks, according to Jamie. She fled and pleaded for assistance from a lady walking her dog, who brought her to a neighboring house and phoned the police. Patterson was arrested not long after. Prosecutors said he confessed in full after his detention during an interrogation. Patterson said in a letter to a KARE journalist that he intended to come clean after being detained. The letter came in response to 2 prior letters with questions that the reporter claimed he sent to Patterson in prison. I knew I wouldn't fight anything if I was caught, which I thought would happen much sooner, the letter added. I tried to give them everything they needed so they wouldn't have to interview Jamie. They did it nonetheless, and it pained her much more. He also said that he intended to plead guilty in order to avoid a protracted trial. When asked whether he is apologetic, he said he feels huge amounts of guilt and continued, "I can't believe I did this. Looking back, that was extremely foolish. The reason I did this is complicated," it continued, followed by a large apology. "No one will ever believe or even comprehend how sorry I am for causing Jamie such pain. I'm at a loss for words. I apologize, Jamie, for everything. I know it's not much," the letter states.
Help me, please!
The story of Michael Webb will make you drop your jaw. He was sentenced to life in prison for kidnapping an 8-year-old girl as she was walking with her mother in a Fort Worth neighborhood. During a 2-day trial, a federal jury convicted Webb guilty of abduction. A court condemned him to life in prison.
We hope, that this gives a measure of comfort to the victim and to the family and to this community, that he's never going to be out.
U.S. Attorney Neely Cox said in a statement, "My hope is that this family and community can find solace in knowing that he will never be able to harm another little child again." Webb was arrested after police discovered him in a hotel room with the girl more than 8 hours after she was taken. During the trial, the victim's mother testified about the time Webb approached them in a vehicle as they walked down a street in Fort Worth's Ryan Place area. The mother told jurors that Webb said, "Come holler at me," to which she answered, "No thanks." He then drove away, then turned around and stopped his vehicle, getting out and addressing them again. Webb said in his recorded video with the FBI that the mother had placed her body in front of her daughter. "That's a mother's instincts," he said. Another clip showed Webb frightening the girl after he had her.
Michael?
I told her that if she said anything, that I would do something to her parents. And if I was in jail, I would have my friends to do it.
The U.S. Attorney's Office also shared a picture from inside the hotel room where the girl was discovered with Webb. But WFAA is not publishing it out of respect for the victim and her family. "We feel she represents a bravery, courage, and strength that is incomprehensible when you consider she is only 8 years old," Cox added.
We feel that she represents a bravery and a courage and a strength that is just incomprehensible when you're thinking about an 8-year-old.
When Webb took her kid, the mother said she tried to fight him off and got into his vehicle. But, she said, Webb shoved her out and drove away, leaving her child inside the vehicle.
Scoped it out pretty good, and I know I missed somebody because when I pushed the woman and grabbed her, I heard somebody screaming. I heard somebody screaming.
An officer spoke with Webb at a Forest Hill motel after receiving a tip. The sergeant said that he checked around the room but saw no evidence of the kid. A second tip from a Good Samaritan who saw a vehicle in the hotel parking lot that resembled the one implicated in the kidnapping led to another search of Webb's room, where the youngster was discovered hiding in a laundry basket. Webb was charged with federal abduction after navigating to the extended stay motel using Google Maps on his mobile. During his trial, the defense did not bring a single witness, and Webb's lawyers did not cross-examine a single witness. Webb requested a new court-appointed counsel many times, but was rejected each time. Webb might have faced as little as 20 years in jail for his crime, but instead got the maximum punishment and is ineligible for release. A dangerous predator is spending the rest of his life behind bars because law enforcement and citizen volunteers worked tirelessly to safely bring the victim home, said FBI Special Agent in Charge Matthew J. DeSarno of the Dallas Field Office. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we'll see you in the next video.